Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between the Worlds Church. I'm Reverend Gina Pond, your enigmatic Wiccan Christian pastor, and I welcome you. Between the Worlds Wiccan Christian Church is an let's start over. Between the Worlds Wiccan Christian Church is an intentionally radically inclusive, and we welcome all persons of any race, color, age, ancestry, sexual or relationship orientation, body size, gender, religion, or any other difference. We respect each other and remember that all of our beliefs are equally valid in the eyes of spirit. We love all the deities that are represented in our virtual congregation, and we include Jesus in our spiritual practice, however he may come to us. And again, I am Reverend Gina Pond, and I welcome you, and it's a bit of a rough service this week because, as you could probably hear and guess, we are in our new apartment, and we have no furniture, actually. And so, and I have to use my phone because, I don't have any desk set up. So it's going to be a relatively quick service, and we won't be doing a Eucharist this week. So let's begin. I call on the spirits of air of the East to guide us in the knowledge that is true and not necessarily what is told to us. I call on the spirits of the South to ignite our passions so that we can do the work that we are called to do. I call on the spirits of the West of water to let us appeal to the emotions and the compassion of those who may not understand the other. And I call on the spirits of the north of the earth to remind those who feel that they are different and they think they are not worthy, to remember that they are of the earth and they are also part of the stars and that they are also part of the ancient molecules that surround them. And I also call on the spirit of center, that which we are, may we always hold each other up through the bad and the good in any way we are called to serve. Now, today I'm going to be calling on Lilith, she who loves the other, whose children are the strangers and the weirdos and those who are different. And then I'm also calling on Saint Clare, patron saint of clarity, and a pretty badass nun, if I remember my history of her correctly. And hopefully that she can help us gain some insight on what is true and what is not. And there is a point to that, I promise. Anyway, so for community prayer, if I'm trying to get the chat here. Live chat. If you would like prayers said for you, or you have permission from others to say prayers for them, feel free to add them in the chat if you're online, or put them in the comments if you're watching this later, and the community can say prayers for you. This week I'd like to send prayers out to the transgender and non-binary community, because especially in the pagan community, at least in the U.S., kind of on the West and East Coast, because there's been a lot of it today, a lot of it this week. There's been a lot of as my wife tends to call it, turf explosions, and they're very harmful, and deny the existence and the very essence of people. And so my prayers go out to you this week for that you will find those that are sticking up for you and that are understanding you and that are making you feel welcome and whole. So Spirit, hear our prayer. And I also pray for the children that are still left, that basically the administration has said, nobody's gonna care. Yeah, there's those of us who care. And I pray for them and that they will find their parents In spirit, hear our prayer. And I pray for all of you, that for whatever you need may come to you, however you're hurting, you may find some peace, some quiet, and that's all. So if you would like to say your prayer silently, you can do that now. Spirits of the universe, Lilith, St. Clair, Jesus, and all of you who are there to guide us, hear our prayers and make us and help us be whole. So this week, like I said, it's kind of a rough and tumble week, and I didn't get to type up my sermon. So it's going to be a little rough and ready, but this week I'm going to start off with a reading from the Charge of the Goddess that one of our coven mates in the Circle of Caradwyn of the open source Alexandrian tradition, which my wife and I founded, wrote several years ago to be more of we call it the alternative Charge of the Goddess, and basically it was written so that it would be gender neutral in language, and it more or less comes directly from Crowley's writings that the Charge of the Goddess is based on. And this one particular section kind of jumped out at me with all the stuff that's been going on in the last week. And it says, "Let there be no difference made among you between any one thing and any other thing, for thereby cometh hurt." Yeah. So basically in the pagan community this week, a particular pagan news site posted an article promoting a so-called church for women that openly discriminates against transgender women. A lot of people know these folks as TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. And it's yet another organization actively participating in the emotional and physical abuse of transgender people. And yes, it is abuse. There's been doxing, there's been threats, and they deny the existence of and the very beings of people without even giving a thought to what they're saying, what they're doing, and using academia and politics and religion as a hammer, as a as a bullet, and sometimes literally, because this kind of thinking kills people. And it's the same kind of thinking that extreme Christianity also uses. You may not think of this as Bible thumping because it doesn't. It's a women's goddess spirituality group, a cisgender women's spirituality group, but it's let's see, goddess thumping, I guess. And I call on Lilith today because she's the patron spirit of those who are the outcasts, the forgotten, the demons of our society. And I also call on Jesus right now. And for those of you who think that's weird to call on Jesus for transgender people, it's not. I'd ask you to think about it, because really there are two sides of the same coin. Lilith is the righteous anger, the outcast demon, the unapologetic for her existence, and the person who is true to himself. She doesn't give up on herself. She doesn't apologize for herself, and she doesn't have to explain herself to anybody. And yet she also gets demonized for that too. But Jesus, on the other hand, is what I would call the cisgender ally, right? Jesus is who the rest of us should strive to be. Someone who is accepting and welcoming of the Liliths in our lives. You know, I can't read my writing. You know, that you don't question their existence, you don't question who they are, you don't question their gender, you don't deny them their agency, you accept them as they are. And Jesus was the one who would do that. He accepted Mary Magdalene, he accepted Judas, and Judas even betrayed him, and he still accepted Judas. Because his love was unconditional, his care was unconditional, and his compassion was unconditional. And yes, there's a difference between love and compassion, and we'll get to that. And, you know, in all of the stories that we hear of Jesus, right, he doesn't require a genetic resume to love somebody and to show compassion to them. He doesn't go up saying, he never went up to people and said, hey, you from Samaria, you woman from Samaria, you know, you can't understand my stuff because you're not from my land. I'm going to come and tell you about what I know, and I will accept you as a person, right? And, you know, Jesus meant what he said when he told the Pharisees, love thy neighbor as thyself is one of the greatest commandments. He meant it. There's no conditions, no asterisks. He meant that. And for those of us with faith, especially all of you watching here or watching later, and especially those of us who are multi-faith, if we can accept, okay, that God or goddess or spirit, however you see that, is in everyone and in everything, or that we are all come from goddess, God, spirit, as they are in their own, as God's own image, and that transgender people do exist, how can you be not unconditionally loving of the other, of the transgender people, of non-binary people, asexual, lesbian, gay, queer, whatever? This is the thing that really gets me, especially in the pagan community, because there's a lot of these groups that say, goddesses and everything, you know, we all have immanent spirit, you know, and it's all like white light and bubbles, and then turn around the next day and they're sitting there going, oh, trans women are evil, or trans men are evil, and blah, 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 and on and on. And yet they're going against their own doctrine. I mean, that's kind of par for the course for humanity, because humans tend to do that. But, and you know, when I look at this, right, when I see this kind of hypocrisy, this killing of spirit in other people, because that's what you do. When you deny somebody their existence, you're killing their spirit. And I know, it's abuse. It's the same kind of stuff as abuse. When you do this, that is sin to me. A lot of people have asked me what sin is, and I haven't really had an answer for a long time. But when I thought about this, when I was writing this week, this is what sin is. Sin is proclaiming that everybody has a place at the table, proclaiming that everybody is of God, that everybody has spirit, and still denying their agency, still denying their gender, still denying their very existence, their very personhood, because you don't understand, and you haven't made the time to understand them. You haven't sat there like Jesus and listened to them and listened to their stories. That not trying to understand, not even wanting to understand, not even considering understanding, is sin. Because you are going against the precepts of just about every deity on this earth. Right? Most deities, most religions have the tenet, love thy neighbor, in some form of the golden rule. Love one another. And sinning is denying that, and denying that love one another is unconditional. And I'm preaching now. Jeez Louise. And, as an ally here, for me, I'm white and I'm cisgendered. As an ally, I had to do a lot of work to get past my own bullshit in my head. So, if you're thinking, well, I can't, I'm too old to change, or I'm this to change, or I can't do this, and, I don't have privilege, or I don't have this. Do your work. Do the work that is required to change your mental processes. And no matter how old you are, how young you are, where you are in your life, you will have the ability to do that. I'm not going to say it's not hard, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible to have a change of heart, to actually open your mind and accept and embrace people. If you are truly insistent that you are not a racist, not transphobic, not homophobic, and you want to prove that to people, then do the work. I want to put a quote here by Bishop Carlton Pearson from his book, God is not Muslim or Jew or something like that. I'll have to put that in the description later. Carlton Pearson's wonderful. Bishop Carlton Pearson is fantastic. And he says, I believe that people can dwell in hell, and may do right now, today, on this earth, before rather than after death. We create hell. I don't believe in hell either. Bishop Carlton Pearson, his revelation was that hell doesn't exist. I believe that we create hell. We have created hell. We still create hell. And unfortunately, in the U.S. right now, there are people in power creating hell for people on earth. And we've created this hell. We didn't need to make it. God did not need to make hell for us. We've done it already. And it's up to us, those of us who can see the beauty in difference and can accept difference without judgment, to fix this. We need to be the eyes and ears and arms of spirit as unconditional love and compassion, and to embrace each other, embrace difference, and support the Liliths of this world and all our queer brothers and sisters and siblings. Let's put some non-gendered stuff in there, right? Right. Gotta remember that. We need to embrace the Liliths, the Lokis, the demons, the freaks, everybody. And it's time as humanity for us to rise to our potential and do that. Or we'll just exterminate ourselves and, one day we have to start over. Or we die out. Sad but true. Let us pray. Spirit of all, may we turn away from the sin of exclusion and embrace the love and compassion of inclusion. May we find ways to be the voice of your divine inclusion in the world. And may it be a levy against the hell that has been created through hate. So mote it be. So thank you for joining us in another week, and I will be back next week, hopefully with my usual setup and better sound, and not have to do it on my phone. And we'll do a Eucharist hopefully next week. That is if we have, well, we will have stuff. We can do a Eucharist next week. So thank you to Jesus and Lilith and St. Clare. Thank you to the spirits of earth, water, fire, and air. And thank you for anyone who's joined me today or who will listen to this later. May you go in peace and blessed be. See you next week.